At the tail end of my interview with Jayne, there was this extra clip where we talked briefly about ranked that was so productive in such a small space of time, I wanted to promote it in its own video, because I actually think this is the best possible solution for all types of players to get the experience they want out of Overwatch. We've done a lot of philosophical talk on the channel recently about ranked, how you have to focus on your own play if you actually want to rank up, and how the really only way to enjoy the experience is to realize that you have to tailor fit your approach to the game to what it is bringing to the table. But Jayne has a way to make sure that the expectations are always set clearly for both types of players, either casual or very hardcore team-focused players, in this solution that he lays out here. We'll pop into the interview and then have a bit of conclusion thereafter. Do you think hero ban would be a good thing for ranked? And if so, or if not, what else does ranked really need right now?
Well, I honestly think that ranked is a bit of a lost cause. If you're allowed to put it on a channel, I would just say, like, kind of ranked. Ranked is not in a situation right now where just a band-aid fix will help anything. And trying to introduce hero bans into that environment would probably just make things worse, be met with even more anger and hatred in that sort of regard. And one of the opportunities that you could use to introduce this in a positive way is to make the ranked ladder a solo queue ladder. It's a solo queue experience. The amount of team play actually happening in ranked right now is next to nothing, right? At the pro level right now, we have counterpicking heroes and we have counterpicking like entire compositions. But when's the last time you were actually able to get your team to fully counter on a compositional level whatever the opponent was running? It just doesn't happen in ranked. So one of the best ways that you could implement is kind of turn what we have with the ranked ladder right now into some sort of just solo queue ladder. No 6 stacks, no 5 stacks, maybe duos or trios. You can work out the details, whatever. But then introduce either a team ladder or preferably kind of in-client tournaments. League of Legends has this system with Clash, but if you have people not only signing up to compete, you maybe like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday system, so to keep queue times low with very distinct start times, pre-made teams giving a benefit in terms of the LFG system, maybe guilds, which has of course been rumored for a long time. Keep ranked as a solo queue ladder, a competitive solo queue ladder with its own sort of leaderboard. But if you are going to introduce this, take the opportunity, introduce a new form of ladder or competitive system which is really truly focused on the team play, the way that Overwatch was meant to be played. Leave ranked, it's got to be grandfathered, but we need a better alternative. And even if you did have like this sort of like in-client tournament system, whatever form it ends up in, you could have that feeding into the path to pro. The best performing teams there get invited to the open division, and that starts people's progression all the way to the Overwatch League. There's so many different things that you could do there to make Overwatch better, and there are opportunities abound, and I really hope that that's the direction Blizzard takes it.
I think a lot of people who have watched our channel for a while would maybe assume that I would have a knee-jerk reaction against leaning into solo queue, but I actually think that solves a million problems. Definitely on board with all of the timed event stuff for teams, and we've asked for a team. I asked Jeff for a team queue the first time I met him. He said no, like in the first 2 seconds. So I hope.
Yes, but they also said no to 1 hero limit originally. Blizzard canon does change their mind.
Right. So I'll keep nagging until hopefully that comes out. But yes, that the reason why I love that so much is that we need to be able to protect the players who are sort of being protected and isolated in the ladder right now. And the problem has always been that we have 2 distinctly separate types of players commingling together, and there's just always going to be conflict there, whether you're an aspiring pro or, a one trick who's really good at some off meta heroes, a player who maybe is more into the competitive side, who his or her experience is frankly ruined by players not joining voice chat or counterpicking en masse, as you're saying, is essentially required for the game. That's the issue. We all know counterpicking is required and teamwork is required for so many different things, but it's difficult, I think, for players to even learn what they're supposed to be doing. That's the biggest issue for me, because when someone's asking me, like, how do I get out of certain ranks, there's a lot you can do individually, but frankly, if you want to really learn your role, you probably have to go into the what I call hard mode queue by queuing with a bigger group, because you're going to probably get stomped right away is the first thing. It's just way harder to do, which a lot of people see as fair, but I see as problematic, because essentially what you've done is create these systems where in solo queue, players learn a bunch of bad habits that don't translate well into team, and it goes both ways as well. Just because you get to a certain rank in team, and even though it's harder, I would say, it doesn't mean you know how to go into the solo queue chaos and leave voice and solo carry like you need to do. But there's players that enjoy that, right? So we should be able to offer both things.
And I'm glad you point that out, because there are ways to play the game in solo queue which will help you rank up, which are the very worst possible things you could do in a team environment. You know, it can build bad habits, and this is another reason why kind of pros are wanting a better practice environment for them to be working on their skill sets in positive ways, which will come back to their practice blocks in their actual Overwatch League games. But then there's those other people who are solo queue heroes. You know, they really, really know how to play the game when it is 1 versus 11. You have those people kind of like always topping the top of the leaderboards against Overwatch League professionals, simply because it is a completely different skill set being able to win games with 5 randoms compared to understanding the game in a 6v6 level, 2 units acting as one, competing against each other, where you can rely on your teammates to do things, where you can set up plays where you don't have to hard carry every single time because the people who are being put into your games are hundreds of SR lower than you. First world problems, you know. If you're less than GM, you probably don't know that feeling, but you know, that's one of the main things that the GMs bitch about, is if you get high enough on that ladder, the game doesn't have anybody else to balance you with, so you're being put with, as you go higher and higher and higher, you're getting put with progressively worse and worse teammates which you are expected to carry. And in order to actually succeed in those games, you have to play in ways that you would not play on a team environment when you are matched with people of your appropriate skill.
A lot to unpack there from what Jayne said, and also a fairly interesting point when we relate it back to our previous video about being quote-unquote stuck in your rank, and the arguments about, well, you can't carry in Overwatch. Well, that's what the highest ranked players have to do by design of the system, actually. It's not a point that feels very relevant to most players, but the design of the matchmaking system is made to keep small groups away from teams, thus not enforcing team play onto them, and in that chaos, you have to rise above mechanically, and even worse the higher up you get. In reality, when you start to group up with a team in a stack, any team play you attempt is probably going to fall on its face in the first couple tries, which is important for your development as a player, but it doesn't give you the immediate reward of winning the game in front of you in solo queue. This is why I love this solution so much, because if you dedicate ranked to a reasonable solo or duo queue at max, you will give the players who don't want to play up against teams the environment they want, and it'll be more or less the ranked experience we know today. A bit of a mess, but at least it will feel fair for those who never want to play up against an organized team. And on the other hand, the players that do want to be able to work on their team play badly need a place to be able to do that in-game. Well, that's gonna be everything for today's video. If you did enjoy this interview and you would like to see more, please be sure to leave the video a like. Of course, you can check out Jayne's links in the description. Huge fan of his content. He does a wide variety of really helpful content. He does live VOD reviews from his viewers, sending in gameplay. Of course, he reviews pro matches as well, hosts tournaments, all sorts of stuff. You're going to want to hit him a follow, or let's face it, a lot of times he's the top of the directory anyway, so you've probably seen him before, but don't be afraid to check his stream when he goes live. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, because we upload each and every day, so you're going to want to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Linked in the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news updates and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.